We're going to talk to Jeff. Jeff's been waiting for a while now before the show. Jeff's calling in from Georgia. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Doing good. Just riffing on some Christian movies on a Good Friday here, and I'm loving it so far. So
yeah,
what's up?
Not bad, not bad.
Yeah, I caught that. And Dan, for you not acknowledging the thumbs up on the cross with the wink from Jesus, man, you should be shot. That was funny, Josh. Sorry, but that was funny.
Listen, that caught me off guard. I didn't know how to respond. It was a good. It was a funny joke. I will say. Let me give my official decree right now. Okay, Josh, that was a good joke. Okay, there we go. It has been acknowledged.
So, anyway, and I'm right there with. Yeah, so I'm right there with Josh. I have caught every single episode.
Hell yeah!
Wanted, and I've also caught it the weekend that it aired. So I didn't always catch it Friday night, but I always caught it that weekend. So I guess you could say I'm the epitome. How do you say it? The
epitome. All right, listen.
Me of the good listener.
Here's I guess there's going to be a new truth wanted dictionary that's going to come out, and the first word that's going to be in we're going to skip A through D and we're just going straight to E. Epitome. All right, epitome. That is the word. Word of the week is epitome. Good. All right. Here's Dan's dictionary lesson.
Got it.
Anyway, Jeff, I thank you. I'll be honest. I'm shocked and surprised. I guess I'm always weirded out when I'm like, oh, you guys listen to me? That's crazy. But also, like, from the very beginning, that was like 3 years ago now. You rock. Josh, you've been rocking and helping out the community. Thank you to everybody who's been supporting the show for that long. You guys are cool. You should definitely like come talk to me in the after show sometime. That would be great. But anyway, Jeff, what do you want to call in about?
Well, recently I've bumped into a few, fellow skeptics, or at least they're in a skeptics group with me, and yet they don't employ a lot of skepticism with certain beliefs. And I've noticed, that they will, use the same sort of stuff that we hear from, religious believers. Oh, you're just angry, you're not open-minded. And I've noticed that they get mad, and I just don't understand, they're the ones claiming that we're the angry atheists, but I think most of us just seem to get angry when, people will make claims, and then when you want to challenge them. Sure. So recently I've had a buddy just, tell me about UFOs. And I was wondering if you guys knew any good sources on those that have really looked into the claims. I haven't found anything really good yet.
What do you mean by good sources of people who have like investigated UFO claims?
UFO claims from a skeptic's point of view. So I've bumped into like some of Michael Shermer's stuff, but he's not really a UFO specialist. I was hoping maybe one of you guys had looked at some of that stuff.
Oh man, so there's like a couple of different people on YouTube I know who do a good job on that stuff. I'm not in the business of endorsing people and stuff and telling you that, but I would say like the problem with UFO stuff, right, is like with Christianity or religious claims, if there's an orthodoxy, somebody has written a book about it. Somebody has written stuff where you can kind of take quotes and figure it all out. With the UFO stuff, there's a lot of like eyewitness testimony. So you have to like grab that stuff, or you're looking at second or sometimes third hand sources from people who are writing that stuff down. And there's not a lot you can go on unless you're kind of there for a lot of the stuff if you're talking about specific events. So it's a bit harder. There are some skeptic people out there, but there's definitely not as many as there are for like the atheist community, because like we can just look at the Bible. Like we can just kind of use that as our baseline, and then everything else kind of follows. But like UFO stuff, there's different people. There's people who believe in UFOs for different reasons, right? Because there's different events, and even people in the UFO communities will be like, "Oh yeah, that event was bullshit, but this one was totally real." So it's a little harder to kind of figure that stuff out. I think that's why you don't see as many people.
Like you can find videos that will like and I can't remember any channels right now because I wasn't prepared for this off the top of my head. But you can search online and see people that found like expertise in like CGI and like digital video, and they're able to debunk a lot of the so-called UFO footage that you find, because a lot of people say, I have no explanation for what this is, and then they'll go UFO. But you not having an explanation makes it only a UFO for you. That doesn't mean that somebody else out there doesn't have an explanation for what that object is. And lots of times it's just a defect in the camera that people don't understand.
For CG stuff, there's great. Like, I think Freddie Wong used to do that stuff, and Captain Disillusion is my favorite there. So I can tell you some folks off the top of my head that do that kind of stuff. For the other kind of stuff, I don't think you need other people to debunk it for you. To be honest with you, I think a lot of the stuff you can kind of figure out for yourself. You know, it's a very sensationalized industry too, of people trying to get that stuff out there. But,
yeah, if they're doing like argument from incredulity and they don't understand what the object can be, you can already dismiss it unless they can verify exactly what the object is with some hard evidence. They're kind of going into the weeds with it, and I dismiss that pretty much right off the bat.
Yeah.
Right. Have y'all heard of this new streaming service? I think it's called Gaia.
Yes. Oh God, I'm very familiar with Gaia.
Yeah.
I think I've talked about it on here before, but for those who aren't aware, Gaia is basically the Netflix for your new age friend that lives down the street that's really into essential oils and crystal healing. Like that, Gaia is like the absolute worst parts of humanity and humanity's beliefs on things put together into like multiple, like, hey, want to watch ancient alien streams and then talk about how like I don't know how you can align your chakras if you eat the right vegetables. Like this is the place for you. They really got that market like down pat. It's incredible.
I still don't even know why chakras need to be aligned, let alone what they are.
Well, you got to pay somebody for it, right?
Right. But yeah, that was the evidence that my atheist buddy gave me. He sent me to this program on Gaia, and it was one guy, Stephen Greer. I don't know if you guys know about him. He's apparently a UFO specialist, but it was just claim after claim after claim, and there was no evidence whatsoever. And when I point out, that it was just claims, then I just get blasted. I think I might have lost a buddy over this just for being a skeptic. So I don't know. It's just frustrating. I was just wondering if you guys have, bumped into that where, just being a skeptic, amongst, fellow skeptics.
The thing is,
when people get so entrenched into their beliefs, they're going to take it personally. You gotta understand, you're not going to convince them right away that they're going to say, "Oh, you're right. There was bad reasoning in this UFO video." I agree with you. That's never going to happen. When things are getting heated, I suggest changing the subject. So maybe if it's a friendship that's important to you, change the subject. Maybe come back to it at a later date. But just drop those subtle those digs into it, and it could end up coming back if they're constantly finding the same points being made up against them. So you're definitely laying breadcrumbs to better skepticism, but you're never going to convince them in one conversation or even like 20 conversations.
Mm-hmm. The thing about being in a community like we are, Jeff, is that most people I talk to agree on is that like Christianity and other religions like probably aren't true. And that's the most that we'll agree on with anything. I've been in this place for too long and I've talked to too many people and realized, God, there is such a diversity in beliefs when it comes to political opinions, when it comes to opinions on historical events and historical narratives. I mean, that stuff can go all day. And, there's other communities that may unite around that, but we're in a weird spot because not only are we a minority, at least in the United States, as far as what our beliefs are, but also like the way that we got here isn't necessarily unified. Most people are Christians in this country because they grew up as Christians. Like that's just a hard fact. A lot of us either, there are some of us that always kind of grew up not believing, but most of us had to go on journeys to get to where we are. And so we've had to pick up a lot of those skills and figure out how to do that to get here. And not all of us have fully developed those skills to get over here. That's just the fact of it. We may have dropped one belief, but we haven't dropped everything else. I'll give you a great example. I think I figured out like that, hey, maybe I shouldn't treat gay people the way that I was treating them or talking about them before I figured out that Christianity was kind of not real, right? Like there's domino effects that happens with people sometimes, but not everybody is on the same chain of dominoes, so it sucks. But yeah, like exactly what Josh is saying, it's easy to get emotionally defensive about some of these positions, especially ones that we've held for our entire lives. And yeah,
not everybody learns skepticism or critical thinking. Like there was a time when I fully believed in ghosts and stuff like that. I never was religious, but I still had like ghost beliefs and stuff like that. I actually went to therapy because I used to see shadow people as a kid. And then you get older and you realize that your thought process is, well, you learn about skepticism. I learned a lot about it from the ACA as a starting point. And then that brought me out of like looking into my weird beliefs in a different way. So like, it doesn't happen overnight. I didn't like listen to one episode and go, oh, I don't believe in ghosts anymore. It took a while. So you just got to keep reinforcing that. And hopefully if they're a good friend of yours, they'll stick around even if you had a fight. Otherwise, if they're getting that angry over a UFO thing, then maybe they're a friend worth losing.
Yeah. Now, Jeff, let me give you some specific insight because you're like, hey, who are some people that know about some of this stuff? You're talking to me, bud. So let me help you out, Jeff. Okay. Let me tell you about Stephen Greer. Okay. Let's go back a bit. All right. So a lot of people don't realize this, but there is a microcosm and a micro industry, if you will, specifically in the US, but broadly internationally with the UFO world. And what I mean by that is there are conferences that are organized. There are groups that are organized. There are people that like run lots of events and put out lots of this kind of content out there that just isn't really seen by mainstream audiences because no mainstream publisher would ever put any of this stuff out. That is another thing about Gaia and why you see so many documentaries on there, because it's cheaper to license that stuff than it is to get like real films and real documentaries. Because a lot of those people are crowdfunding that shit. Okay. Stephen Greer is one of those people who talks about how he alleged, I believe his story, I could be wrong, I could be mixing him up. I believe his story is he used to work for the US government and is one of those people that claims, oh, the US government has classified, alien technology, and other corporations and international bodies do as well. And he's made a career off of this, right? He's had interviews done with him. Sure. He was on fucking Larry King. Okay. Like he's one of the big boys. Really? Yeah. Stephen Greer has made a whole career out of this. Nothing he has ever said, I think, has ever been verified by anyone ever. I don't know if anyone has ever said, yeah, oh, I used to work with Stephen. Oh, Stevie boy. He used to be co-work. I don't think if that's ever happened. I don't think any of the technology he's talked about has ever been produced. I think he's just tells stories. And again, this is just me kind of talking off the cuff about Stephen Greer because he is one of many people who kind of does this thing where their street cred and why they get cred in these communities is, yeah, I used to be one of the other guys, and now I'm turning heel and invite me to your conferences to speak and talk about these things. So he's one of those dudes. So yeah, I would encourage, I mean, maybe his Wikipedia article talks about him more and stuff, but there are some people who have written about the man in his career, but honestly, he's all talk. He's one of those people that has all talk and has nothing to show for it, just like pretty much everybody in those communities. So there you go, Jeff. That if you want to low down,
that's why I was floored when, this was what he gave me was, this guy with just, I mean, the very first thing he started off with was his near-death experience. I'm like, oh, here we go. And then it just grew from there. But I'll let you guys go. I appreciate it. And Dan, I caught both of your YouTube videos with Anthony Magnabosco. So glad you're on our team now.
Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate it. And I realize the irony of that too, by somebody who also publicly professed as a Christian and is now not, and talks about other things too.
No, Dan's a con man.
I've never made money off of this, at least not yet. And I was just a college kid on campus when I said all that stuff. And yeah, I was a part of a Christian organization, but man, I wasn't like running the Christian circuit or anything. I don't know. I just want to help people. That's all. But it is interesting to see like how these people kind of find their niches in these circles, right?
I mean, even I was referencing back to when I wasn't a skeptic. Everybody kind of pulls cred from coming from the other crowd, even if they're not even thinking about it.
Sure. And like, I didn't go to like theology school or anything, you know, like I was a young man at the time. So I consider myself just like anybody else, just kind of figured out, hey, this was not working. But
yeah, and I didn't go to ghost school either, so we're on the same
there
footing.
you go. There you go. So yeah, weird stuff. We should talk more about Guy on this show, honestly, but there's so much garbage on there. It's really bad.
I'm almost tempted to check it out just by your description of it. If it has a free trial, I'll check it out.
My personal friend, a genetically modified skeptic, did a video on Gaia. I think I'm featured in there because he made a joke about there's somebody talking about white giants, and then he showed a picture of me, and I thought that was pretty funny. But yeah,
that's pretty fun.
It's pretty good. So yeah, look if you want to like blast your brain, go look up some stuff from Gaia, because that shit is absolutely buck wild. But I want to move on to another call.